Well, you are, and I know you know this, Lily Whiteman. And Lily, you have a great book I found out about, because it's probably one of the newest books that are out now on getting a federal job.
Yeah, the second edition just came out last summer, so it was pretty new.
Yeah. Did you have to do a lot of new research or anything for a second edition?
I did update it. You know, the government is a moving target.
Right.
Federal hiring is a moving target.
Right.
The internet changes things. Right. Rules change. So, yeah, I did do a lot of updating and incorporated a lot of new tips that I learned as I helped more people.
Well, you've been at the government game for a long time, huh?
Yeah, myself, I've worked for the federal government for over 20 years.
Wow.
And I
started out at 12, is that it? Yeah.
Yes, I did, actually. And started out at EPA. And since then, I've worked at 5 agencies.
Wow.
So I saw that even though the government is the nation's largest employer, there was no book about how to get a federal job and how to move up in the system by somebody who's actually a current federal employee. So I saw that niche and I wanted to fill it.
So this is all about, I mean, you mentioned earlier that the government hires how many people a year?
The government hires typically more than 200,000 people every year all across the U.S.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so... and good times, bad times. I mean, I've been studying the government for 30 years, and I've never seen it shrink.
That's true. Even under the Reagan administration, it didn't shrink.
Saying, Lesko, you're going out of business now. They cut out the 800 numbers, but they still crew the programs.
Absolutely, and there's a huge retirement wave going on in the government now, and I see it personally. Just people retiring because of the baby boom, and the government is really aware that it needs to backfill for those people.
Right.
So.
No, I mean, I would think this is going to be the biggest hiring boom, in our country. Nobody else is hiring.
Right.
And all these people are going to retire, and the government needs folks. So if you're looking for a job, I think this is the greatest opportunity we have.
There is always a "we're hiring" sign on the government's front door.
And what's the key? Where would somebody start? I mean, you look at a book that's maybe daunting a little bit, but you read, you Google getting a government job, and you'll have 5,000, 50 million people telling you they could help. Do you need that stuff, or is there...
Actually, I think you need that book.
Okay, good. So we need this book. Don't Google, use the book.
But on top of that, USAjobs.gov is the federal government's main hiring portal, but not all jobs are on that. It's a myth that everything's on there.
USAjobs.gov. Okay, USAjobs.gov. Okay, good.
For example, as I was saying about the backfilling, because of that, federal agencies have been starting new internship programs, well-paying internships, not volunteer.
You could make like 30, 40 grand as an intern.
Absolutely. All over the country, from laboratories to museums to parks to offices to research centers.
Would this be if someone lost their job and want to start a new career and maybe be an intern at this kind of...
I know people who've done that. I work with a New York City police officer who's tired of getting shot at, and he got a job as a policy wonk for the government through an internship. So that was mid-career. Wow. And these internships are not on USAjobs.gov. You've got to go to the individual websites of the agencies to find them. And if you go to firstgov.gov, you'll get an inventory of all the federal agencies that exist. And
firstgov.gov.
And they all have their own career.
So if I was interested in the outdoors or something, I'd go Department of Interior or Agriculture and look for their internships.
Absolutely.
Right? And I don't have to be a 22-year-old kid in college.
No, actually.
And I can be making decent money.
Absolutely. Why be flipping burgers when you can be making good money? When you could be a power broker.
And have a hell of a retirement plan.
Absolutely. So the statistics are that the federal government is hiring more mid-career people than it has ever has before. Because of that retirement wave, the executives are bowing out. So it's not only young kids, it's people of all levels.
So you can be a 45-year-old white guy.
Right, absolutely. And it's a myth that you have to know somebody to get a federal job. People think it's all about nepotism, and it's really not. Most of the jobs I've gotten, I didn't know anybody.
Ray, you even wrote the book and you still don't know anybody.
Well, I didn't know anybody who could help me get my target job.
Right.
And I've helped hundreds and hundreds of people that knew nobody who got jobs. So
it's just learning the system.
And persistence really is important.
Yes, it's like getting a date. If you sit home, you ain't going anywhere.
Absolutely.
You got to get out
But
there.
the difference is you probably don't want to ask the same person to go out with you multiple times.
After they said no.
After they said no, but with the government,
you got 1,000 choices.
Right, and each application is independent of the others.
This is a bar room. Stocked with beautiful ladies. Just go down the line.
Absolutely.
Now, how about your elected official? Are they any good at this to help you at all?
Well, if you want a job on Capitol Hill, that's one.
But I mean, like understanding the system more about getting a government job. In other words, are they worth using at all?
Well, for instance, Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, who wrote.
She wrote the book with me.
She sponsors a career fair every summer here in D.C. So some of the Congresspeople are active in hiring.
Helping people find jobs in the government.
Absolutely.
Now, would the same procedure work at state and local government and stuff like that too?
Well, they have their own hiring systems, but the basics of how to present yourself in an impressive way, which I go through exhaustively in this book, applies to every kind of employer.
So it's, I would think, I mean, I never had a government job once I left the Navy, but I came to town looking for one, and it took about 6 months until things started happening, and then I started a business, and that did well. So I didn't, but I mean, I think it's jobs. Also, they're jobs you can't get anywhere else.
Absolutely.
Who's going to pay you $100,000 to study volcanoes?
This is true, and I studied geology in school, so I appreciate that.
See, I mean, stuff like that you can't do anywhere else. I mean,
and there were really surprising jobs. For example, I talked to people at the CIA who told me that they hire wardrobe and cosmetic experts.
Wow, now that's where
to gussy up their spies. So who would have thought that a hairdresser would get a job with the CIA? But
and then she go around in the bar room and say, I work for the CIA.
But I can't tell you what I'm doing.
I see, right? Because Max Factor will be upset. No, I think, government careers, you just can't get anywhere. I mean, like, I run into a guy who an airline pilot, he's flying a plane, a one-engine plane up in Alaska, on looking for people who are shooting animals or something like that. I mean, who else is going to pay you? General Motors ain't going to pay you that kind of money to do that.
Right.
It's just neat jobs that people don't realize. And now the retirement, because private sector doesn't have retirement and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, what happened to the poor people who worked at Enron is not going to happen
to you.
To government employees,
Right. So in other words, if you're looking for it, it's one website is
USAjobs.gov.
USAjobs.gov. And to get interns, we go to...
You've got to go to firstgov.gov, and that will show you every federal agency, and then go to their career page. Alternatively, in my book, and I spent days and days doing this, so you wouldn't have to, I have a very comprehensive directory of federal internships and fellowships for mid-career job seekers.
So it's not only, the kids out of college. It's for any area, even without degrees. I'm sure there are probably more people on the federal payroll without degrees than with degrees.
Yeah, I mean, fellowships for mid-career people, these are usually 2-year positions where you're addressing a substantive issue. They're a great pipeline to a permanent job. That's one of... There's a lot of backdoor ways into the federal government, like temp agencies place people in government jobs.
Oh, really? Wow.
And not just for administrative things, accountants, lawyers, so forth. And I know a lot of people who've gotten permanent jobs because they did well on their
temporary jobs. Now, I mean, if it's the biggest employer in the country, right? Hiring the most people, no matter what the economy's doing, if you're looking for a neat job, people ignore the government, and it's silly.
And if you don't like Washington, it's a myth that all the good jobs are in D.C.
What's the percentage in Washington?
Only about 15%.
15% in Washington, so you don't even have to come to Washington.
Right, you can go overseas.
Overseas? Where else are you going?
Every major city in the U.S. has a substantial government presence.
Well, thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much.
This is great. Here's the book.
Thanks, everybody.